Now it's time to review the major developments with our special guest. I'm currently joined by international lawyer and political commentator Orhan Amashov. Hi Orhan, one of the special highlights of this week was the Baku Energy Week. The Baku Energy Week has highlighted the importance of Azerbaijan in terms of ensuring European energy security. How would you evaluate the importance of Azerbaijan energy resources in view of the crisis in Ukraine?
I think this week we have an absolutely fantastic opportunity to throw a glance at Azerbaijan's energy export capabilities, Azerbaijan's place in the EU energy market, and also, of course, we are looking at all of these things in the light of the crisis engendered by the events in Ukraine. What is very clear, Europe has been dependent on Russian oil and gas for some considerable time, and now it seems that they have come to the conclusion that they need to diversify their energy source. I mean, they have known it for some considerable time, of course, but some drastic measures needed to be taken, and they are being taken now. Azerbaijan has a very important role to play. Azerbaijan is not going to come to the rescue of Europe because the volumes are not comparable. I think that Russia was exporting to Europe about 155 BCM per annum, whereas in Azerbaijani case, as far as the current figures are concerned, I think that through the southern gas corridor, Azerbaijan is exporting to Europe about 10 BCM per year. And this volume could be doubled. But time will show, of course. Azerbaijan is an important player, of course. Azerbaijan, in terms of the energy component, it is integral to Azerbaijan's foreign policy agenda and Azerbaijan's political clout. And it's absolutely important part of this process, this thing we call punching above its weight. Azerbaijan is punching above its weight, and energy is an important part of it. And I think that this Energy Week has highlighted some of the most important things. The critical thing, I think, at the present juncture is that Azerbaijan is a reliable partner. It's a partner that you can trust. Azerbaijan has given its promise to export a definite BCM, and Azerbaijan is exporting it 10 BCM. It could be doubled. And there are some other options, of course. I think that Azerbaijan's reliability is a key thing at present juncture, and I think that this particular importance will be augmented in the fullness of time.
How can Azerbaijan augment its export capacity and become an even more important player?
Well, at present juncture, I think that Azerbaijan is exporting about 22 BCM per annum. But when it comes to the volume we are exporting to Europe, it's 10 BCM, and to Turkey is 6 BCM. The couple of things should be considered, of course. It's about the exploration, about production. These things require investment. And of course, investment is such a thing is not just totally contingent upon Azerbaijan's behavior. Azerbaijan has got partners and Southern Gas Corridor. There are lots of actors involved there, and there must be a collective decision based on the consensus. For that reason, I think that Europe has to step in, because if we remember, during the development phase of the Southern Gas Corridor, Azerbaijan decided to take a substantial part of the risk. Azerbaijan decided to bear the bulk of the risk. And now Europe has to step in, because I'm not completely sure that 10 years ago, for example, Europe was very mindful of the importance of diversifying its sources, its import sources. But now I think that they realize that they cannot be reliant on one supplier, because relying on one supplier is never good. Whether you have excellent relation with that supplier or not, relying on one supplier is always dangerous. You're always on a slippery slope. And Azerbaijan, of course, is an important player. Azerbaijan has got an important role to play, and I think that this role should be augmented. As I said earlier at the beginning of my answer to your first question, Azerbaijan is not coming to the rescue of Europe, but Azerbaijan can play a very important critical role within a certain segment of the EU energy market. And by that certain segment, I mean the southeastern Europe, because for example, you know that in Serbia, for example, the annual need for energy, I think, is about 2.7 BCM. In Bulgaria, it is 3.7 or 3.5. So Azerbaijani volume, which is 10 BCM, the preponderant part of it goes to the Italian interconnector. But if it's doubled, it could play an important role in the southeastern European energy market. So Azerbaijan's important thing is that it is reliable. Secondly, I think that the pipelines are in place. They have been invested properly. There is a Southern Gas Corridor, 3 pipelines together. So it is already there. You do not need to invest in the new pipelines. But what you have to do, you have to augment already existing pipelines, and you need to invest, and you need to increase the capacity. And I've been speaking to many people who are experts in this area. For example, Neil Watson is a British journalist writing in this about this region for some considerable time. He told me that originally this Southern Gas Corridor was built at 3 BCM capacity because Iranian gas and Turkmen gas were also taken into account. So the possibilities are there. But investment is key, and investment is about money, it's about collective decision. Europe has to step in, and the risks must be shared.
Let's draw attention a little bit to the Russian gas. I mean, the dependency of Europe on the Russian gas. Is Europe honest when it says it wants to get rid of completely of its dependency on the Russian gas? Are there plausible solutions for it to do that? It seems like a daunting task to me.
Well, I think at this present juncture, Europe is more or less honest, but honesty is a very complex nation. It's a very subtle nation. I mean, even a person who is presumably exercising honesty doesn't know whether he's honest or not. I think at this present juncture, Europe could be considered reasonably honest because there is a real danger. They have to act in relation to Russia, and the present desire to extricate itself from the Russia-dominated energy market is not just about the desire to diversify one's energy supplies. It's also about the political context. War in Ukraine, and they do not want to rely on Russian gas, because relying on Russian gas means spending money, paying Russia, and that money goes to the war. So there is a political element which we shouldn't forget. I think that when it comes to oil, probably Europe is completely honest, because you probably heard that the European Union has introduced 6 packages of sanctions, and according to this package, the ban on oil is completely there. I mean, currently I think that 75%, by the end of the year it will be 90%. But when it comes to gas, of course, it's a slightly different story. United States and UK could, of course, behave independently, because as far as I know, United States, they do not buy gas from Russia, and only 5% of the energy needs of the United Kingdom provided by Russia. So these two countries could behave independently. But when it comes to the continent, in particular Germany, they are not really very independent, and their lack of independence and reliance on Russian gas have manifested itself, I think, that in the kind of stance they have taken in relation to the crisis in Ukraine. So when it comes to oil, I think they are honest, but when it comes to gas, I would think twice. But on the whole, I think Europe is realizing that relying on one supplier is never good, and Europe is realizing that they should have started thinking about the subject earlier. It's slightly belated, but I believe that if the right steps are being taken, by end of 2030, probably Europe will, as they say, win themselves off the dependence on Russian gas. But it will take some time. A European energy security doctrine is based on 3 fundamental pillars, linchpins. One of them is ramp up green energy. Secondly, they have to diversify their energy resources. And thirdly, they have to consider some other options. I think that the diversification of gas sources, gas supply sources, is the most credible one, because with green energy, with renewable energy, with reducing demand, which is one of the options, these things will take time. And Azerbaijan's place in this game, in the grand scheme of things, is absolutely pivotal. And I expect that this importance will only increase from this time onwards.
Thank you, Orhan. That was quite a perspective on this topics discussed.
Thank you.
That was all for the week. Thank you for watching us, and stay tuned not to miss the next edition of our program.